A great pleasure it is to welcome Peter Malebye, the Chief of Sales at Vodacom Business. Peter, good day to you. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, Aki. It's a pleasure to be here with you today.
Now, listen, it's great to have you with us. And wow, incredible accolades that Vodacom has received again. What does it mean to be crowned the most trusted mobile network operator by My Broadband in the recent My Broadband survey? That's when you look at the backdrop of today and the trust index and all that sort of thing, that's a fantastic accolade to receive.
No, for sure, Aki. I mean, this is a significant achievement for Vodacom Business, you'll understand. I mean, at the core of it, Vodacom Business, we are a connectivity provider. So to get such an accolades, I think it means a lot. And I think to me, it sentiments to our commitment and resilience in terms of the investments that we are making on our network. And I think to get such accolades, it shows the confidence of the customers feeling or getting the feedback of the investment that we are making. I mean, it's coming in the midst of the back of a whole lot of challenges with load shedding. But then it's the resilience that I think for me is coming quite a lot. And I think it's that sentiment that says to customers, they must continue to turn to Vodacom, because we understand and appreciate that at the core of their businesses, that connectivity is a key and enabler moving forward. Yeah.
Yeah, listen, I remember talking to Shamil and how tough it was when the load shedding was at its peak, right? But you guys were spending millions and millions on diesel, and you kept the network going and delivering to your customers, which was absolutely fantastic and well done. So let's hope that we stay like we are right now with electricity stability that we have. Now, you have extensive experience in the IoT sector. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now you've got expensive experience in this IoT sector, and it's something that's really growing. You're seeing lots of businesses, and the amount of devices that are growing exponentially globally. And you've seen it evolve over the years. Where did Vodacom, and I remember this, and I'm trying to remember the date, because I remember being at your headquarters, and there was a big section and a big event talking about IoT. So when did you guys kick IoT? I'm trying to remember your first entry into the IoT industry, and how did this come about? It was many years ago.
No, it's many years ago. I think where it goes back, Aki, is it goes back to the early days of machine-to-machine connectivity. So we're talking 12 years ago. So that's when it started. And as you will recall as well, when it started, I think the main use cases were more around early stages of telematics to connect motor vehicles. So that's when it started. But I mean, being part of Vodafone, you would know that this has been like a big play globally, but I'll touch on that later on, in the sense that, I mean, to date, in South Africa, we're connecting over 6 million from a connectivity perspective. And globally, we ranked in the Magic Quadrant, at the top quadrant in terms of IoT connectivity. But it has evolved. So it's been a more than 12-year journey that started with connectivity. But as you will know, I think the industry has since evolved from just pure connectivity to starting to provide more solutions moving forward, which we're going to touch on later on. Yeah.
Wow, that's quite a significant milestone. 6 million. Did you say 6 million devices connected at the moment?
So what we have, I mean, it's over 6 million
Sure.
connectivity, but that's just the pure connectivity. It's outside the solutions that we are offering, and it's split in two. So what's happening in the connectivity world is that you've got connectivity just on the local SIM within our network in South Africa, but also as part of us being part of global, there's a platform we own, GDSP. So it's a global data SIM platform, whereby you have an IoT connectivity SIM that can roam anywhere in the world. So we're sitting with over 2 million of such connections that we're managing locally for our customers that are going global. And as you recall, I think this is a big
that's
thing
amazing.
yeah.
No, I was going to say that if we take a step back, there must have been, a few hurdles that you faced at Vodacom to deliver these world-class IoT solutions? Because I know that, with frequencies and with capacity and with the network had to be adapted, and you had to make those small adjustments to be able to deal with these IoT devices. What were those immediate hurdles that you faced?
Yeah, look, I think hurdles came in different forms. I think one is that early stages of connectivity, you have a challenge of the devices that are pricey to support some of the use cases from an affordability perspective. So that becomes like a major hurdle for driving adoption. But I think what helped on that specific hurdle is that the initial use cases were mainly being driven from a telematics industry perspective, right? So that at least I think managed to, because as you will recall, most of the South African telematics players are global players in their own right today. So the other hurdle I think that you would face is that how then do you on the core network, do you make sure that you optimize the network to support mission critical connections? So which means in certain parts of the network you need to make sure that there is sufficient capacity to support mission critical applications that are driving IoT use cases. Then the other hurdle is that I think in the early stages, I think for me it's less about IoT. I think it's more about, I look at this as just one of the enablers to solve problems. I think sometimes what has happened is that there's been a rush to just play with the technology without understanding the value. And meaning IoT is not just a pure technology discussion. It's a commercial discussion. It's a business discussion around the value. And what I have seen is that that many businesses have struggled to go beyond proof of value because they fail to understand, appreciate what are the big problem statement that can be solved. And then because when you start to do that, then you can start to see value. But without doing that, that's why there's been a hurdle to see. Because even today, if you look around, you wouldn't see a lot of scalable IoT solution use cases simply because of, I think many players just rush to play with the tech, which is not mature. Then some of the use cases were not matured as well for the industry to adopt that scale. Yeah, so I think those were some of the earlier discussions. I think the other one which has been big is around the data, because to have meaningful impact of IoT, it's about sensitive data that typically organizations will be more sensitive to expose it outside the core of the corporate. So not trusting where this data is going and not trusting the adoption of cloud at those early stages was one of the biggest problem. And the other one is that the industry in IoT outside connectivity is has been very fragmented to a great extent, right? So meaning that interoperability was like a big issue to say a company will choose solution A, but solution A of IoT must work with solution B of IoT, which is from a different supplier, but they're not interoperable. So now you're not able to extract the value that you can maximize out of that. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of complexity there. And how have you dealt with those kind of hurdles? Because to reach your current position as leader in this sector, you mentioned all those initial hurdles that you faced, but along the way there were others. But you guys are now cemented as a leader in this sector, and that says a lot.
Yeah, no, it says a lot. I think what helped is that, I mean, if I go back to where it started, right? So in South Africa, Vodacom is the leader on connectivity. So what we had to do there is to follow partnerships with our telematics company so that then we can allow the scale to happen, because even today, that is the most mature use cases that is there. So I think one of the things was to say, Vodacom doesn't turn and say, I'm a telematics company, but we had to say, we are enabler for the telematics companies, so that's why most of those use cases or telematics companies are working off our network. And what does it allow? It allowed us to start to partner smartly in the telematics space. Smartly meaning now we are able to offer fleet management solutions, which we offered through one of our telematics companies into government, right? It's a partnership. we were able to do. You'll recall, I think, a couple of years ago, there's a partnership we did with Toyota and Netstar around offering Wi-Fi within a Toyota vehicle, right? So it's a partnership. So we understood quite early around the value of partnerships, right? Then outside of that, I think one of the lessons that Vodacom has done very well on more the solution side, I think we adopted a stance of studying at home, meaning that we want to scale solutions that we are already using so that then we have proven the value. So that's why you would have seen in the early stages that like one within the smart buildings environment in its early stages, Vodacom adopted a lot of that technology for our campuses in South Africa and within Vodafone. And then in that way, we can validate the use cases that are able to scale moving forward, right? And also what we did is that even our approach to clients was very strategic in the sense that we are looking at the value extraction or value creation and co-creation, right? And what comes to mind is that we got involved in the early parts of smart metering in South Africa. Lots of lessons learned and hurdles that we had to overcome, but
Yeah.
through consistent partnership on how, because it's one thing to deploy a smart meter, but to make sure that it works and to make sure that it creates value for the municipality is something else. So we've learned a lot. But in that learning a lot, we learned to say, how do we partner with people who are experts in what they are doing, and then people who know how to execute, and then how then do you translate the language to the language of a municipality around the value that they need to create so that then citizen service delivery can be driven up. And further to that, that's why then what you will see is that when Vodacom started to go outside connectivity, we started to also get into meaningful acquisitions that we can make to complement our capabilities, because we are starting to understand that we can't know it all, right? So we have to partner. So some examples is that we own a company called Mezzanine. So they specialize in IoT solutions in the agriculture space, in the health space, and also in the smart asset management space. I mean, to give you an example, so during COVID, the COVID platform that we were using to register, if you recall that platform, it was a co-creation of Vodacom together with the National Department of Health. So it came as a partnership, which started early stages. It started as a proof of value around how do you enable stock visibility of medicines in rural clinics, whereby they run low, then there's a platform that shows that they're running low, then it can automatically order those from a warehouse so that then they can replenish those clinics. So that platform from early stages started to evolve to a stage where during COVID, it became a partnership to solve for that, right? There's other subsidiaries that we own, like Xlink. They specialize in what we call secure connectivity for payments industry, because it's important, right? Where for a point of sale terminal, it needs to have 2 SIM cards that are secured, because it's a secured pipe that is driving payment transactions. And then I think the latest acquisition that you will know was the one that we made on IoT.next, which was our play into industrial IoT. So I think in a sense, you'll see that there's been lessons learned, there's been use cases that we have done internally. And I mean, I'm fascinated even today. One of the big use cases that we are driving even globally with IoT.next is around the cell site monitoring solution. So base stations, as you would know them. So within a base station, there's an IoT solution that we use to monitor it, different things, alarms, energy, etc., etc. That started as an own use case on our base stations and now has been scaled into Vodafone, where Vantage towers are also using the same solutions, and we are scaling it. And now there's a new one that we are working on around how we are adding a layer of security on the same solution that we're going to continue to scale. So we're proving the medicine on ourselves, playing with the tech, and then in that way, it drives the confidence of the value to our customers, but we also partner deeply with customers, whereby we know that we can augment our capabilities to be able to scale moving forward.
So lots of partnerships, Peter, which is critical to the growth that we've seen over the last few years. What would you say were the major milestones that you've achieved as Vodacom Business in this IoT space? And really, how strong is your current position in the local industry?
Yeah, look, I mean, what we've achieved, I've mentioned some to say, I mean, we have over 6 million connections, so we're very proud of that milestone. We're very proud that we continue as Vodafone to be the leader on the Magic Quadrant around managed IoT connectivity. So proud of what we've achieved there. But today also we're proud that we now are part of national government through Treasury. They have appointed a panel for smart metering. So we are proud that we are part of that panel. It's a major milestone for us to be sitting on that panel because it's transformational to align to where the country wants to go as a subset of smart cities moving forward. We also are proud of some of the things that we have done, especially during COVID. So through some of the transversals in the government sector, we have been involved in a lot of digitalization of processes, workflows for government entities that have driven a lot of value. So very proud of some of those solutions that we have deployed, mainly in government. I mean, it's exciting solutions. I mean, one of the recent ones is that in the Free State, we've delivered a telemedicine solution using AR technology, whereby a doctor operating a patient through AR, he can call in for support from another specialist to get assistance on an operation that they are doing. But at the same time, it allows the whole operation to be recorded, which in future will start to help how government institutions can mitigate against litigation claims around negligence. So we're getting into weird and fascinating spaces within the government. But also in the private sector, we're very proud of some of the solutions that we are starting to roll out. So very soon we'll be announcing, the first mobile private network that we are deploying with a leading oil and gas company, and very proud around that because it's been a scaling trend of private networks globally, especially in the mining industry, and we are not far behind. So we are already starting to see some of the solutions that we are starting to deploy them today. We are also seeing a very interesting trend of employee engagement application solutions that we are starting to roll out in the mining sector, which is a clear path into connected worker or safe worker type of use cases that are starting to do. So we continue to see that all of the solutions are starting to take place. And I mean, it's interesting solutions, but I think for me, what excites me the most is the fact that customers are starting to see value coming out of some of those use cases. You would have seen recently that there's also a call automation solution that we are working with a utility provider that will help them sort of automate their call value chain. So it's exciting value that we are starting to see in partnership with clients and some of our partners around how we drive scale moving forward. Yeah.
Wow, it's very exciting, and it's great to hear your partnerships with government and how they're playing out. Because when you look at IoT, it's got, as you say, a potential to unlock massive amounts of value. I mean, we're seeing it already as you've been talking to us about some of the examples. What are the next steps that you envision the IoT industry taking, and how is Vodacom planning, from a business side to look at these future opportunities? I imagine that you just touched on some of the examples, but I imagine smart cities must be right there as well, Peter.
Yeah, look, I think maybe just to give you a snapshot, what I see for me is that the this ecosystem is quite vast and big, right? So I think one stance in terms of our outlook moving forward. I think our intention is that we want to continue and be a leader in Africa on managed IoT connectivity in the continent, right? So taking at the back of what we have achieved globally is a stance that we are taking for the continent. So what does that mean? So what it means is that remember connectivity, everything else I'll say after here, it starts with connectivity. Smart city without connectivity doesn't work. So we want to take a leadership position in terms of that. And that will have the various variants. I think one variant of that is going to be mobile private networks. So as you will see that there's a lot of activity happening in mining within the continent, new mines, but new mines that are starting to come up, they come up with with the latest technologies that is smart. And smart technologies meaning that you are able to operate mines remotely, but for you to do that, you need mobile private networks to do that. So we want to lead with our connectivity because it supports a number of use cases, right? A subset of that as well is going to be narrowband IoT, which is critical to another part of smart cities, mainly in the utilities from a water perspective, as an industry that we are also picking up to own moving forward. And then another one is security. So I think in South Africa, security is topical, but there's been a lot of technology whereby you're starting to have CCTV cameras that are AI based that can analyze on site and only send information that is required back to the command center. So it means there is IoT connectivity that is required to enable those type of use cases, right? So one theme is around connectivity. We want to continue to lead and master it in its different forms of connectivity, right? But in that, we are also becoming clearer to say, as Vodacom, what areas do we want to be known for? Because there's a lot of players within the whole IoT space, right? So the specific industries that we want to scale, I think one industry is utilities. So utilities is from smart metering, water, electricity, energy management, virtual wheeling. Water now, I think it's a looming crisis. So there are investments and partnerships that we are formulating into that. So utilities is going to be a big thing because it's at the cornerstone of the turnaround of our economy. On water, the infrastructure is aging, right? Quite a lot. So you're going to need a lot of IoT use cases around how you can proactively know where leakages are. How can you use data analytics to inform investments that are going to maximize the return given the space that we are operating in. And also for investors to come in, they will need to have line of sight of utilization of the assets, right? And all of those things are possible with IoT. Without IoT are not possible. So utility is a big space that we want as Vodacom to be known for. Then the second one as an industry is also going to be around security. So we're seeing a lot of use cases around how a combination of IoT, AI, CCTV can start to drive use cases that optimize specific responses from a security perspective. We've seen the advent of body-worn cameras, etc., etc. So there's a lot of data from a security point that is being collected that needs to be optimized to enforce smart policing of the future. So security is an industry that we are also picking up to scale with. I'm not mentioning the normal industry around telematics because that one is going to always be at the core of what we do around internet in the cars. That is already in our core capability that we'll continue to do with a whole lot of different players. The other view that we've taken is that we're going to start to deepen partnerships at a strategic level that can provide scale, right? And I think that is going to be a big game changer. And that is going to have two facets to it. I think one facet that we're seeing is that we are working on positioning what I'll call a marketplace of IoT solutions by industry vertical, meaning that we are able to pull in different experts in different industries into our marketplace with our solutions. Then we wrap it with our connectivity, and then we wrap it with our managed services offering at the back of our credibility and the brand. Then we win like that within the industry. So that space of marketplaces excites me a lot because on one side is that it will allow scalable solutions where we can start to make meaningful impact. On the other side is going to help us to start to play significantly on driving local innovation, because then what we'll do is that we'll be able now to pull startup companies that have use cases that can scale and give them a chance and choose, because we can expose their solutions into the marketplace platforms that we'll be launching, so that we can help them to scale into the market. So you can see that we're not gonna be try to be everything to everyone. We'll be known for connectivity. We'll be known for specific industries, and then we'll also be having a marketplace where we'll have industry-specific solutions, whereby we'll have partnership with scale partners, and on the other side, we'll be driving local innovation on new use cases moving forward. So that's a stance that more or less that we'll be starting to take. And why that stance is important. So we've learned from customers, because sometimes in the private sector, you go to a customer on a point-to-point solution, and they say, why Vodacom? Because they can go straight to the OEM and engage directly with the OEM. So they are questioning what's the value add that Vodacom is bringing, right? So then what we're starting to see is that the more IoT use cases go into the production environment, the more it goes into creating value. It's becoming impractical for big organization now to start to want to manage hundreds of IoT partners. It doesn't make sense. So you gotta start to need a credible partner that can pull the value together, so that then it can translate into meaningful impact. And you have one throat to choke, rather than to try and choke 10 different chokes and when your production is down. So that's the direction that we are taking, and then we see that as a unique space that brands like us can start to occupy to drive solutions that can scale. Yeah.
What advice do you have for businesses that are interested in adding the IoT solutions that you've been talking about? And I guess that you can also customize it to suit your customer's need, and you can create those bespoke IoT solutions to their existing operations. How should they approach this?
Yeah, look, I think from an approach perspective, I think the space of digital transformation is very overwhelming, because there's a lot of change that is happening at speed. And I think what's critical is that companies need to take a step back and understand the challenges and appreciate the value that can be driven by technology first, right? Because that always becomes the foundation. And I always use ourselves as an example. So the next evolution of our cell-site monitoring solution evolved into security around how do you secure base stations. So there's a problem of security, and then the response is, how can technology help solve for that, and then how can you solve it at scale? So that's more or less the mindset that one needs to be at, right? Meaning, understand your business, because business have different challenges. So you've got businesses that are having fragmented operations. You have businesses that are having to drive productivity or reduce costs. You have businesses that are having assets that they need to monetize into the future, leveraging technology. So the problem statement are varied, and then depending on what is the biggest problems that you have, and that's how then you can now start to say, okay, fine, how do I apply technology to solve for that specific problem statement? Then after that, there's a lot of noise in IoT, right? And we get carried away by the trends, AI, machine learning, and all of that beautiful terms, right? Start small to validate the value, because when you start small to validate the value, it becomes easy for you to scale at the back of that. And also, it becomes possible for you to be able to do what? To make the return on investment on the first use case, to take it into other use cases that are more complex into the future. And then I think once you have that mindset, I think then it becomes practical for you to extract value. And also be open. And many businesses, I think, struggle with the idea of partnerships, because what I see, even from us as an industry, we sometimes tend to confuse clients, right? Because what happens is that a client today sees Vodacom, tomorrow sees Huawei, the next day sees AWS, the other day you see Microsoft, the other day you see another specialized. Then it's very confusing, because they're all saying the same thing. So how do you choose which one is the right? So I think what's becoming more important is that client needs to kind of start to push and foster an ecosystem of players, to say when an ecosystem of players in their right lanes starts to come together to drive value for the client, that's where you're going to start to extract value around some of the use cases moving forward. So don't try to be everything to everyone as a client. I think start small, ecosystem of partners, And then in that way, then you can start to see value for your operations and be able to drive the business case moving forward. The beauty is that the barriers to entry have lowered quite significantly in terms of cost. So to justify the business case becomes much, much more simple. And also I see businesses are starting to open in terms of different business models, right? Because in the past, you'll find that there's a huge capex model that you need to put in upfront, right? But now there are innovative models that are based on value to say, the business case should say, if my baseline is X, and then I make this investment, it should reduce or it should improve. And based on the improvement, then it means then I have justified the business case, and then I'm able to partner deeply in terms of how I scale it forward. So I think it's going to take that effort for businesses to apply themselves, for them to be able to extract the maximum value for their operations. Yeah.
Fantastic advice and amazing accolades. And, you guys have certainly got that experience to help the customers along the journey. Peter Malebye, the Chief of Sales at Vodacom Business, thank you for sharing your thoughts and unpacking IoT and Vodacom's journey on IoT, certainly part of the future. Thank you for your time, Peter. Wishing you all the best in the future.
Thanks, Aki, and to your listeners, and hoping to connect with them quite soon to solve for them. Thank you.